Hello, my name is Bob, and once again I'd like to welcome you to another episode on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. In this part I continue with the fitting of the new fairing. This time we're going to fit the lower fairing panels and the air ducting for the radiator. So let's get started. Before they go on, the new side panels need to be fitted with their grommets, screw clips, heat shielding and blinkers. I started with the screw clips. New ones came with the fairing, but they were generic, so a bit loose fitting, and I recycled the old clips instead. There are 3 at the top of each panel and they push into place, but sometimes need a bit more pressure to seat properly. When you are fitting them, make sure that the threaded hole is on the inside of the panel. Then I moved on to the rubber grommets, which were fitted to the 2 screw mounts on the outside of the panel. It was a tight fit and I ended up pushing them home with a plastic panel tool. If I had thought about it at the time, lubricating the grommet with washing up detergent would have made insertion easier. I fitted the second one from the back of the panel and that probably made it easier too. Then I moved on to the heat shield. For this I'm making a pattern which I will use to cut out the insulation strip. Basically you need to have insulation where the bodywork comes close to the motor or the exhaust. But to make it easier for myself, I am referencing the location of the heat shielding on the old panels as my guide. Happy with my pattern, I then laid it on a sheet of insulation material that had come with the new fairing. I marked out my cut lines and I used scissors to trim it to size. The insulation provided in this fairing kit is more than you need, but not that much more, so don't go crazy with it. For bigger areas, smaller pieces can be placed side by side too. The insulation comes with the adhesive backing covered by plastic, which first needs to be removed before the heat shield can be stuck to the fairing. This panel required a second strip, which was cut for the bottom section, which will be the area below the exhaust collector. Then it was on to fitting the blinker or indicator. The blinker is an aftermarket LED type with customised mounting. The mount consists of two pieces of plastic which sandwich the original opening and clamp together using both the blinker's mounting screw and nut and an adjacent screw. The other panel was prepared in a similar fashion and they were both ready to fit. The panels can be fitted by one person, but it is much easier with two. Given these were new panels that I didn't want dropped or scratched, I enlisted another pair of hands to help me with the fitting. I started by fitting the screws that hold the fairing lowers onto the headlight cowling. There is an L-clip attached to the frame that the other end of the fairing has to fit over, but being plastic there's a little bit of give in it, so this helps with assembly. I then fitted the upper body screws to mount the fairing to the frame. If you have watched part 3 of this series, you will recall I used a piece of cardboard to hold the various screws for the panel in their relative positions. This is where its value lies, as the different positions have different length screws and the right one needs to go in the right position. Then it was on to the left hand side panel. The fitting process is identical to the other side, but both sets of lower mounts were being left for later. Note that I'm using colour coded screws, with blue ones in the blue zones and the original silver ones in the white zones. Before going any further, the blinkers were connected and tested. Unlike the bulb ones, LED blinkers like these need the right polarity for each wire.
Yes. Other side.
The next stage will be fitting of the radiator air ducting, but before doing that I will show you how it goes together. The top section attaches to the bottom of the headlight cowling and is held in place with 4 panel pins in the positions shown. The 2 holes at the back are for attachment to the side ducts, again using panel pins. Mounting dogs on the lower fairing engage the side ducting at the front. It is then secured in place with 3 screws. with the back hole at the top for the panel pin attachment to the rear of the top section. 2 screws through the lower front of the fairing go into matching screw clips on the bottom section to hold it in place. Starting at the top panel was slid into place and secured with panel clips in the 2 centre positions before fitting the 2 outside ones. Then it was on to the side panels. Then it was on to the lower air dam. This has also been fitted with heat shield insulation, which I had done off camera. The 4 screw clips were fitted to this panel. One was too tight a fit, so I had to prise it out with a flat screwdriver. Up till now, I had left the bottom of the fairing sides unconnected. This makes it a lot easier to fit this bottom section of the air dam. Sliding it into place, I then fitted and did up the screws on the right hand side. Before going on, I will show you how the lower halves of the fairing come together. So essentially there's the coating dogs here and here, and there are panel pins that should be in these 3 positions. On the right hand side I inserted and partially did up the screws for the bottom air dam. Then, making sure I had the lower edges properly engaged, I inserted the front panel pin. Then I tightened down the screws holding the right hand side. Then I fitted and did up the screws along the bottom of the two halves, making sure that the lower sections had engaged properly along their entire length. Then it was on to fitting the two remaining panel pins. And the job was done. With the front half of the fairing now complete, I'm ready to move on to the tailpiece, and I'll cover that in the next episode in part 7. Thank you all for watching. If you've been watching this series for a while, you're probably realising by now that I am posting them or airing them once a week until I get them all loaded. Of course, if you want to catch the next episode the moment it comes out, the best way to do this is to subscribe so that you get a reminder from YouTube when the next episode airs. And of course, any other episode on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. So once again, thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.